everyone, my name is Mirko, and in today's video we're going to be speaking about how to approach enemies to ensure you have the best possible advantage going into the gunfight. There are many reasons why you don't win as many gunfights as you would like to. Some of the reasons could be bad positioning, some of the other reasons could be bad aim, but one of the main reasons why you keep dying during gunfights is actually your initial approach. Many people do not think about their approach to enemies or their approach to third-party gunfights, and they just like to get stuck in and get involved every time they hear shots going off. As tempting as it may be running straight towards gunshots, you might find yourself actually in a lot of trouble when it comes to going against enemies, and you might not even be able to make it out alive or retreat if you don't approach correctly. So there are three main things you want to think about when approaching enemies. The first one being gaining height, the second one being a retreat backup plan, and the third one being good cover around you. Now, if you do see enemies or you hear enemy gunshots, you have that advantage of knowing where they are without them knowing where you are. So when you are approaching them enemies, you want to see if there's anywhere that has good height going into the gunfight. If you immediately go into a gunfight having the height advantage, you'll come out on top nearly every single time. And the other thing you need to bear in mind is that having a height advantage will give you very easy access to retreat from the gunfight if needed. Now, that's the second thing I want to speak about, is a retreat plan. Now, when you are approaching enemies, you want to make sure that you're not fully committing yourself to the point where you're overexposing yourself and you forcefully have to go into the gunfight. And a lot of times this happens when you go up close with enemies and you get surrounded, which puts you in a very vulnerable situation. So to completely avoid that, when you are approaching the enemies, approach from medium range, start firing a few shots and make sure you've got good cover around you, so if you do need to retreat, you can do so without being shot at. It's always best to think about how you're going to retreat when you're approaching enemies if you need to fall into that plan B. If we take a look at this example here, I managed to get onto the dinosaur bones using Pathfinder's zipline, and my initial thought was I'm going to go in for the gunfight at medium range, and if I'm being shot at, I can just slip down the dinosaur bones and retreat successfully without going down. And I had this thought in the back of my head every time I was going into the gunfight, and you can see I had good cover as well, and this is overall a very good approach going into a gunfight. And instead of rushing as soon as I heard shots, I took my time, I was patient, I looked at my surroundings and I thought, what is the best possible way to gain advantage in this area? I have said this in my previous videos and I'm going to say it again, always fight enemies at medium range until you gain the upper hand, either by dealing a lot of damage or by downing one of their players. Then you can push closer, because going into a gunfight when no one has the advantage, it's 3 players versus 3 players and you're all up close, guns blazing, you can be surrounded by 2 or 3 enemies, you can get ganged up on, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. That's why fighting at medium range gives you that chance to down one of their players and then push closer. Now, Legend's choice can give you more flexibility when it comes to approaching players. If you're using a legend like Wraith, you can take the few risks here and there in trying to approach players up close, because Wraith's tactical ability will give you a few seconds to retreat. And if you're using Pathfinder, for example, you can use Pathfinder as well to grapple out of horrible situations. And that's why legend choice is really important when approaching enemies. And I always think the best legends in this game are legends that will give you flexibility to get out of horrible situations and also give you the best movement possible. So just to round up on the things we've spoken about today, the first one being gaining height when approaching enemies. So the next time you see enemies or you hear gunshots, look around the area and see if there's any height you can gain to put you at an advantage. If not, be sure that you're always fighting at medium range and only push closer when you have that true advantage. The next thing we spoke about was having a retreat method or a retreat plan in the back of your head if things get a bit ugly. If you feel like you're being shot at, you can retreat comfortably because you've already pre-planned how you're going to retreat in that situation. And having good cover at all times is quite a beginner's tip, so I didn't indulge too much into that, but you don't want to be pushing or approaching enemies in an open area, because not only will them enemies be able to shoot you, but you also can be shot by other enemies that are third partying or other teams that that have just spotted you out in the open, or snipers that are just looking down on you. So that is going to wrap up this video on how to approach enemies the best way possible. If you guys feel like I've missed something out, be sure to let me know down below in the comments section to help other people out as well. As always, my name has been Mirko. Be sure you're liking, subscribing, turning that bell notification, all of that good stuff. And as always, I'll catch all of you guys out in another brand new Apex Legends video.